Yes.
Or at least keep the scavengers contained. Something,
You get the gloves, I'll get the acid.
And then Chase he mentions that Zed, who we've heard about a few times now, is looking for Richard. And they talk about how the cloud is still there behind him, that snake cloud. Undulating.
I learned that word last time.
Snake cloud. And we live in Michigan, so we know that clouds don't just chill for days at a time. Maybe for a little while, but they move, okay?
Yeah, lake effect, this and that, and the other thing. But clouds don't sit still, ever.
No, they do not. So Chase has to get back to his guarding duties, even though he really doesn't think he needs to be there. He thinks he's just there for decoration, basically. And Richard and Kaylin, they need to go get some refreshments, because Kaylin is definitely hungry at this point. And I think that this would be a wonderful place for us to go get some refreshments.
I agree. It's time for the beer break.
It's time for the beer break.
It's time for the beer break.
Heck yeah.
All right, so this week we are drinking Coconut Love Shadow by Brewery Vivant. It's a bourbon barrel-aged imperial stout brewed with toasted coconut. And we could not be happier about this decision.
It is so fucking good.
Jade was literally just saying how this is her favorite beer from Brewery Vivant, hands down.
Hands down.
And I'm not going to lie, I am inclined to agree. I mean, I'm a stout guy to begin with, so it wasn't that difficult for me to get on board, but damn, it's good. Just real quick, I want to read the back of the can because they have something that was really, really funny on here, and I wanted to share it with you guys too. German chocolate cake is a perfect complement to this ale. Serve it in a small tulip to enhance the flavors. The beer, not the cake. I mean, it's your choice. Put both in a tulip if you prefer. Another great pairing would be pancakes. So it's versatile.
Now, I really wanted to say Brewery Vivant is downtown from where we live. We actually have visited a couple times because they serve beignets there, and it's one of the only places that you can get beignets around us.
Jade got me hooked on beignets in California, in Disneyland, and this is the only place that we've been able to find them, so it's pretty major.
Yeah, it's a really cool brewery. It's actually in an old church, and all the tables are like real long wood-hewn tables and communal seating, and they have really fancy foods.
It's so cool inside there. Yeah, just the communal seating, and everything is stone and wood, and they have that big stained glass thing up front. Cannot speak highly enough of this brewery. It's really cool. If you guys live nearby, you should definitely go check it out.
Yeah, you get a big Hogwarts feel when you're inside there. It's pretty nice.
Definitely.
So, again, love this beer, love drinking. Anyways, we'll be back after this, guys. And we're back. So, after they get some food, Richard makes some comparisons to what he would like as opposed to Michael. Michael's house is made out of cold marble everywhere on the floor, the walls, the pillars. It's very obvious comparison of the two personalities. Michael is a cold-hearted asshole, and Richard is a warm, inviting person. So he prefers the warmth of wood as opposed to like cold stone. Michael also has explicitly said that he likes to hire people who live in wood houses. So it's not just like a personality comparison. It's literally Michael's an asshole, and he would rather hire the little people as opposed to building his own house with his own hands.
Yeah, he says it takes a lot of work from a lot of guys who live in wooden houses to build a stone house.
Right. So I mean, I think it's a pretty obvious comparison for everyone who reads, but it's worth noting that Michael's just a cold bitch.
Well, and he's very material.
Yes. Yes, he cares about material things. We've been told this a couple times now. That's all that matters to Michael. So, people have been being found half-eaten, and Richard has been brushing that off. And if it is related to the boundary and things coming out of it, everybody is in danger. But I thought it was really funny that he mentioned that people were being half eaten as like a casual aside.
It kind of reminds me of what happens in the It books and movies. Like, oh, every so often, yeah, this thing comes and eats some kids. And like every 23 years, everybody just goes, oh, well, yeah, that's just kind of a thing. But never mind that. What?
What? You still live in Derry? Why didn't you move, bud?
Right. And, obviously for Richard, why are you there? Dude, go somewhere else. People are being ripped in half. That's not a place I want to stay.
For real. Obviously, the boundary wardens are not doing their fucking job if people are being eaten. What's really interesting to me is that Richard brushed it off without offering an alternative. Like, he didn't go, well, people could have been being half-eaten by the mountain lions or the bears. He was just like, yeah, I've been ignoring that.
It was a good year for the wolves.
Right. He's just like, oh, well, if it is stuff out of the boundary, then we're all in danger. Well, what the fuck else could it be?
Yeah, that's a pretty big thing to just throw the shade over.
For real. That's not just like people have been disappearing, okay? People haven't just been running off or whatever. People have been being found half-eaten.
I mean, it's not funny. I shouldn't be laughing. No, it's kind of absurd that they just kind of turn a blind eye to it. Or not a blind eye, but it doesn't worry him that much. It doesn't make sense.
Especially when he hangs out in the woods, and I'm assuming lives near the woods.
Yeah, that's where he goes.
You should be concerned, bud.
If people at work were just randomly getting ripped in half, you'd be worried. And you'd be like, I don't know if I'm going to go on Monday. Even more so than normal. I'm feeling no.
I feel like I'm going to sit by my fireplace and drink some coffee instead.
Right, exactly.
I also think it's of note that Richard is most comfortable turning to a stranger from the Midlands. And he has people that he knows and he's comfortable with, obviously. He loves Michael, he's his brother, even though he's an asshole. We know he is friends with Chase, who's a badass. But instead of being comfortable talking to them about any of this stuff, he's comfortable with Kaylin, who he just met, and she's a weird bitch.
Well, yeah, she's not typical. We can say that.
Right, she's got this weird emotionless face. She murdered some dudes in a weird way. She's not comfortable telling him, and she's obviously been telling him some weird stuff and or lying to him since she met him, but he's most comfortable talking to her, which means that all the people who he's close to aren't really confidants of his.
It kind of makes you wonder what he might have to say to the people he is closer to. Or how close is he really to the people that he sees in his everyday life?
Right, is he a loner?
I mean, it kind of paints it that way. If this is the person that he decides to start talking to, and she's a stranger.
And it's also mentioned that Zed, who's been mentioned a few times now, is also from the Midlands, originally. And it's weird that his two people that he's apparently closest to are from the Midlands.
Right.
That's going to come up later.
Yes. So Richard and Kaylin are hanging out at this party, and Kaylin is looking around some of the other girls there, specifically the serving girls, and she comments on how they have long hair. And Richard kind of goes into an explanation about, well, yeah, I mean, you can have your hair cut however the hell you want it. It's kind of silly. And he asks her, do people make you cut your hair? And she kind of goes, well, no, nobody makes me cut my hair. And that's another thing leading to Kaylin is probably a woman of importance in the Midlands, but she hasn't said how.
Right.
But it's definitely a big deal. She noticed it right away.
Right. And she's been saying hi to everybody here. Like, she knows how to address people when she meets them for the first time. So she's obviously used to greeting people, and everything's kind of adding up to where she is somebody fucking important.
Right. It says that she's graceful and she knows how to work a floor, pretty much. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
She's not intimidated by any of these high-ranking people in the least.
Right. And she's also really fucking smart, because they walk away from the table and go to the side of the room. She notices that people are watching them, and she comes up with a pretty good plan to figure out who they're watching, specifically.
Yeah. She tells Richard, go get me some cheese. And he's like, oh, okay. And he goes and gets the cheese. He comes back with the cheese, and she just drops it on the ground. And she's like, I fucking hate cheese, which is weird. And he's immediately like, then why did you want me to go get you the cheese? Now, it just goes over this moment very briefly, but I laughed out loud because he's like, oh, what the hell was that for, man? She just throws the cheese on the ground. Another clue, actually. Side point. She's obviously got to have money because, man, people don't waste food. What's the matter with you? But,
Right.
So he's incensed for a second. Like, whoa, what did you make me do that for?
As you would be. I laugh every time I read this because if somebody made you go get something they hate, you would obviously be like, what the fuck? And here's the thing. There was plenty of stuff on that table that she did like. There's really no real reason that she made him get the cheese instead of a little sausage or something that she could still eat after finding out that they were watching Richard. It's a funny little moment, but she really just did it to make him go be her little bitch.
Well, she did it to see who the guys watching them would follow.
Right.
Right.
But, again, she could have picked something she liked, and she instead chose cheese, so he would be like, what? Why?
So you think she chose the cheese on purpose so she would drop it, and he would be like, why did you make me do that then? So she could very casual-lookingly, if that's a thing, I don't know if it is, explain to him what was going on. But if they were really watching him, wouldn't they see his face go, what the hell?
Yeah, the whole interaction is a little bit funny. Like, I mean, I like Caitlin a lot, okay? But I think it's kind of an asshole move to have him grab something she didn't like just to drop it on the floor. Maybe she didn't want to be distracted by eating because she was focusing on the guys. But still, you could have pocketed something else.
Anything else. Don't waste the food, lady.
Yeah. Like, no.
If nothing else, come on, how are you raised?
Right, or grab something you know Richard likes. He has little sweet treasures up there that he loves. Come on.
But you gotta give her props that the way she figures out that Richard is definitely being watched is genius. She goes to one side of the room, then the other. They're not watching her. That means they are watching Richard. And, you know, it doesn't say what that could imply.
Richard does think that they're aides.
Okay, so he's not so worried.
But I think it does speak to Kaylin not letting her guard down, even when she's brought into a comfortable situation where she could have potentially just been like, oh, cool, there's dudes over here watching us, and Richard's with me, and we're just here to eat and listen to a speech. She's still on fucking edge, which is good to be, apparently, when you're being followed by 4 burly men with weapons.
Right, she hasn't let her guard down at all. And this is something that Richard picks up on. He tries to tell her that she's safe now, and they'll go get help, they'll go talk to his buddy Zed, and everything's going to be okay, and she tells him that he doesn't know shit. Yeah.
Yeah. She explains to him that a lot of people died for her to get across the boundary, and she had to use magic to get here. And he's like, oh, okay, I guess I kind of get why you're freaked out, but I don't know anything about what you're talking about. I'm over here in the dark, lady. But we'll go see Zed. Chase is watching you now. Just calm down. It's going to take at least a few days for these guys to travel back over the land and come after you.
Right. So at this point, he's trying to assure her that they can just chill out.
And my friends are your friends now, so just take a deep breath, lady, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, we got everything covered. So chill out, have a beer, put your feet up, put your weapon away, and have another beer break.
Ooh, that's a nice segue, Nate.
Thank you. I worked on it for approximately 30 whole seconds. We can make this quick. We did just get a refill, and we weren't going to actually stop for another beer break, but we wanted to throw this one in because we were pleasantly surprised. This one is from Creston Brewery in Grand Rapids. It's called Blueberry Sweet Street, and it is good. A little line they have on the front of the can is, brewed under the sea in a golden submarine.
So I dig it.
Yeah, we like it very much. Little nod to the Beatles. I hope that's what they were alluding to, is the Yellow Submarine.
That's what I'm going to